The metal chair scraped against the floor as Commander Vextal shifted his weight. His forearms remained folded across his chest, the way his people showed they were uncomfortable. The scars on his face looked deeper under the bright lights. Each mark told a story of battles fought across the galaxy. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Murphy sat across from him at the small table. The human looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had been working too many hours. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Chen held a small recording device. She watched every move the alien commander made. "We appreciate you coming here today," Jake said. His voice was calm and steady. "The war has been over for 6 months now. We just want to understand what happened." Vextal's mandibles clicked together. It was a sound humans had learned to fear during the war. Now it just seemed sad. "Understanding," he repeated. The translator device on his throat made his words sound flat. "Yes, I suppose that is what you need." The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air system. Through the window, stars moved slowly past. The space station Concordia Prime had been built after the war ended. It was supposed to be neutral ground where both sides could meet safely. "Let me ask you something first," Vextal said. He leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why we attacked your worlds?" Jake and Lisa looked at each other. They had read all the reports. The Zephyrian Empire had been expanding for 300 years. Humans were just another species in their way. "Resources," Jake said. "Territory. The same reasons most wars start." Vextal made a sound that might have been laughter. "No. We attacked because we thought you were weak." His 4 eyes focused on Jake. "Your ships were smaller than ours. Your weapons were less advanced. Your soldiers had no natural armor or claws. We believed conquest would take maybe 6 months." Dr. Chen spoke for the first time. "But the war lasted 3 years. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days, Vextal said. "I remember exactly. Do you want to know why it took so long?" Jake nodded. This was why they were here. Vextal stood up and walked to the window. His back was to the humans now. "I commanded the Third Strike Fleet. 50,000 warriors under my command. We had conquered 12 worlds before yours. Each one fell within weeks." He turned around to face them again. "The first human world we attacked was Kepler 442b. You called it New Haven. A mining colony with maybe 10,000 people. We brought 15,000 soldiers." Jake knew about New Haven. It had been one of the first colonies to fall. But something in Vextal's voice suggested there was more to the story. "The colony had no real defenses," Vextal continued. "A few small patrol ships, some mining equipment. We expected them to surrender when they saw our fleet arrive." "But they didn't," Lisa said. Vextal's scarred face twisted into what humans might recognize as a grimace. "No, they did not. Instead, they sent us a message. Just 4 words. Come and take it." The alien commander sat back down. His hands were shaking slightly now. "We landed our troops outside the main settlement. Standard formation. We gave them one more chance to surrender. Their leader, a man named Mayor Tony Davis, came out to meet us." Jake leaned forward. This was not in any of the reports he had read. "Mayor Davis was old," Vextal said. "Maybe 60 years by your counting. He wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons. He looked at our army and at our ships in the sky. Then he smiled." "He smiled?" Lisa asked. "Yes. He smiled and said something I will never forget. He said, 'You boys picked the wrong planet to mess with.'" Vextal's voice was quiet now. Then he walked back to his people. The room was silent for a long moment. "What happened next?" Jake asked. Vextal closed his 4 eyes. "We attacked at dawn. Our doctrine is simple. Overwhelming force, quick victory, minimal losses. We expected the humans to break and run when they saw us coming." He opened his eyes again. "Instead, they fought like nothing I had ever seen. Miners used their digging equipment as weapons. Children threw rocks at our soldiers. Old people refused to leave their homes even when we set them on fire." Dr. Chen made notes on her pad. "How long did the battle last?" 18 hours, Vextal said. 18 hours to take a settlement that should have fallen in one, and when it was over, we had lost 300 warriors. 300 of my, best soldiers killed by farmers and shopkeepers. Jake frowned. But you did take the colony. Yes, Vextal said. We took empty buildings and burned fields. The humans destroyed everything they could not defend. Food, fuel, equipment, data, files. They left us nothing useful. He paused, and many of them fought to the death rather than surrender. The alien commander stood up again and walked back to the window. That night I sent a report to my superiors. I told them the humans were tougher than expected. I requested more troops for future operations. What did they say? Lisa asked. Vextal turned around. They said I was getting old, losing my edge. They reminded me that humans were just another primitive species. No claws, no natural weapons. Soft skin that could be cut easily. He sat down and folded all four arms again. I tried to explain what I had seen. Humans who kept fighting with wounds that should have killed them. A woman who detonated explosives rather than let us capture a fuel depot. A man who charged our battle line with nothing but a mining tool. Jake and Lisa exchanged looks. They were beginning to understand why Vextal looked so troubled. My superiors thought I was exaggerating, Vextal continued. They said fear was making me see things that were not there. So I requested transfer to easier targets. But there were no easier targets. Every human world we attacked was the same. The alien commander looked directly at Jake. That is when I started to understand. You humans do not fight wars the way other species do. You do not calculate odds or consider losses. You simply decide that something is worth defending, and then you defend it no matter the cost. He paused for a moment. That terrified us more than any weapon you could have built. Vextal walked back to his chair and sat down heavily. The metal creaked under his weight. Jake could see the alien commander was struggling with his memories. Dr. Lisa Chen kept her recording device running and watched carefully. After New Haven, we attacked 17 more colonies, Vextal said. Each one was harder than the last. But nothing prepared us for New Detroit. Jake knew about New Detroit. It had been one of the largest human colonies in the Outer Rim. The official report said it fell after 6 weeks of fighting. But those reports were written by people who had not been there. New Detroit was different, Vextal continued. Not just a mining town or farming settlement, it was a real city. 300,000 people. Factories, schools, hospitals. The kind of place where families lived for generations. He looked out the window at the stars. We brought our largest assault force. 15,000 warriors. The best equipment. I was confident we could take it in a week. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. What made you think it would be easier than the other colonies? Vextal's mandibles clicked together slowly. Size. We thought a larger population would mean more civilians. More people who would want to surrender to save their families. We were wrong. The alien commander stood up and began to pace around the small room. The humans had only 800 real soldiers, Marines under Captain Billy Roberts. The rest were just regular people. Factory workers, teachers, shop owners. We outnumbered them 20-1. Jake frowned. But it took 6 weeks? 6 weeks, 3 days, and 11 hours, Vextal said. Every second of it was hell. He stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. Your Captain Roberts was not like other military commanders I had faced. He did not try to meet us in open battle. Instead, he turned the entire city into a weapon. Vextal sat back down. The first thing they did was blow up the spaceport, not just the landing pads, but the fuel storage, the control towers, everything. We had to land our ships 20 kilometers away. They were cutting off your supply lines, Lisa said. More than that, Vextal replied. They were making a statement. They were telling us that nothing in their city would be easy to take. And they were right. The alien commander rubbed one of his scars with a clawed hand. We entered the city from 3 directions. Standard tactics. Surround and compress. Force them toward the center where we could finish them. He shook his head. But there was no center. Not anymore. The humans had turned their own city into a maze. buildings connected by tunnels, streets blocked with debris. Every corner could hide an ambush. Jake leaned forward. What kind of resistance did you face? Vextal's 4 eyes focused on something far away. Sergeant Amy Foster, demolitions, expert. She had rigged half the city with explosives, not just military charges, anything that could blow up. Gas lines, fuel tanks, chemical storage. She turned their own infrastructure against us. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air recycling system. We would enter a building to clear it, Vextal continued. Find nothing, then 10 minutes later the whole structure would collapse. She was always one step ahead of us, always watching. Dr. Chen made more notes. How did she coordinate with the other defenders? The sewers, Vextal said. They used the underground water system like a command network. Our soldiers would control a street, but the humans would pop up from manholes behind us, attack and disappear before we could respond. He stood up again and walked to the window. Captain Roberts was brilliant in a way that still frightens me. He did not fight us building by building. He fought us room by room, floor by floor, sometimes pipe by pipe. Jake had read about urban warfare tactics, but this sounded different. What do you mean? Vextal turned around. They used their factories as weapons, assembly line robots programmed to attack, conveyor belts turned into traps, welding equipment used as flamethrowers, things we had never seen before. The alien commander's voice grew quieter. On the 20th day, we cornered a group of humans in a textile factory. 30 workers and 5 Marines, we had them surrounded, no way out. He paused for a long moment. We offered them surrender terms, safe passage for the civilians, honor for the soldiers, standard protocol. What happened? Lisa asked. They laughed at us, Vextal said. Actually laughed. Then they opened fire, with weapons made from sewing machines and industrial looms. The civilians fought just as hard as the Marines. Jake could see the alien commander was struggling with these memories. You eventually took the factory? We did, Vextal said, but it cost us 40 warriors, and when we searched the bodies we found something that shook me to my core. He sat back down and folded his arms. The factory workers were not soldiers. They were seamstresses, maintenance workers, supervisors, regular people with families and normal lives. But they had chosen to fight and die rather than surrender. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. That must have been difficult for your troops to understand. Vextal nodded. My warriors are bred for battle, trained from birth to fight and die with honor. But these humans were just ordinary people who became warriors because their city needed them to be warriors. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then he continued. The worst part came on the 40th day. We had taken most of the city. Only the industrial district remained. That was where Captain Roberts and his remaining Marines had made their last stand. Jake knew this part of the story would be difficult. The industrial district had been completely destroyed. We surrounded the area, Vextal said. Captain Roberts contacted us on an open channel. He said he wanted to negotiate surrender terms. But he didn't surrender, Lisa said. No, Vextal replied. He wanted to negotiate our surrender. He told us we could leave the planet and never come back. In exchange, he would let us live. The room was completely silent now. 15,000 warriors, Vextal said. Against maybe 50 humans, and he was offering to let us surrender. He looked directly at Jake. Do you understand how insane that sounded to us? Jake nodded slowly. What did you do? We attacked, Vextal said. What else could we do? Our honor demanded. But as we moved into the industrial district, Sergeant Foster triggered her final trap. The alien commander closed his 4 eyes. She had rigged the entire area with explosives, not to kill us, but to destroy everything. Every factory, every warehouse, every piece of equipment. The humans would rather see their city burn than let us have it. He opened his eyes again. We found her body in the ruins, next to a wall where she had spray-painted a message. Detroit still stands, come and take it. She had died protecting a pile of rubble, but somehow it felt like we had lost. Dr. Chen stopped taking notes. What happened to Captain Roberts? He was the last one alive, Vexatal said. Wounded, out of ammunition, surrounded by the wreckage of his city. We expected him to surrender then, finally admit defeat. The alien commander stood up one more time. Instead, he looked at us and smiled, the same smile I had seen on Mayor Davis at New Haven. Then he said, "You boys sure made a mess of my town, but you still haven't taken it." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What did he mean? Vextal turned to face them both. He meant that conquest is not just about occupying territory. It is about breaking the will of your enemy. And after 6 weeks of fighting, we had not broken a single human spirit. The alien commander walked back to the table. We had won the battle, but somehow we had also lost it, and that was when I began to understand what we were really fighting against. Vextal sat down at the table again. His 4 hands were shaking slightly now. Jake noticed the alien commander kept looking toward the door, as if he wanted to leave. Dr. Lisa Chen adjusted her recording device and waited. After New Detroit, my superiors gave me a new assignment, Vextal said. They wanted me to hunt down the human fleet that had been attacking our supply lines. Intelligence said it was a small force, maybe 20 ships. Jake knew about this operation. It had been called the Ghost Fleet by both sides. Admiral Kate Sullivan had commanded a task force that spent months hiding in the Titan Nebula. We brought 80 ships to the nebula, Vextal continued. My best captains, the newest technology. We were going to end this threat once and for all. He looked out the window at the stars moving slowly past. The Titan Nebula is a dangerous place, full of radiation storms and electromagnetic interference. Most species avoid it, but humans seem to love dangerous places. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. What made the nebula so difficult to fight in? Vextal's mandibles clicked together nervously. Nothing works properly inside those storms. Sensors give false readings. Communications break down. Navigation becomes nearly impossible. It is like being blind and deaf at the same time. The alien commander stood up and began pacing again. We entered the nebula in formation. Standard search pattern. We expected to find the humans quickly and destroy them in one battle. He stopped and looked directly at Jake. Instead, they found us. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the life support systems. The first attack came at night, Vextal said. If you can call it night in space. 3 human ships appeared out of nowhere. They hit our supply convoy and disappeared before we could respond. Jake leaned forward. How could they hide from your sensors? The radiation, Vextal replied. They used the nebula's own energy to mask their ships. We had never seen anything like it. Our technology could not track them through the interference. The alien commander sat back down. Admiral Sullivan was clever. She did not try to fight us directly. Instead, she picked us apart, one piece at a time. He rubbed one of his scars with a clawed hand. The second day, they hit our communications ship. Suddenly, half my fleet could not talk to the other half. The third day, they destroyed our long-range sensors. We became truly blind. Dr. Chen made notes on her pad. How did your crew react to these attacks? Vextal's 4 eyes focused on something, far away. Fear, real fear. My warriors had never faced an enemy they could not see coming. Every shadow on the sensor screens looked like a threat. Every power fluctuation could be an attack. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then he continued. On the 5th day, Commander Rick Turner contacted us on an open channel. His ship, the USS Defiance, had been reported destroyed 3 days earlier. Jake frowned. But he was still alive? Very much alive, Vextal said, and very angry. He told us that his ship was damaged but still fighting. Then he said something that chilled me to my core. He said, "You came into our nebula. Now you belong to us." The room felt colder, somehow. Jake could see why this memory still troubled the alien commander. Turner's ship had been hit by our missiles, Vextal continued. Hull breached in 6 places, life support failing. Half his crew dead from radiation poisoning, but he kept fighting. He stood up again and walked to the window. That night, the Defiance attacked our flagship, my own ship. They came out of the storm like ghosts, fired everything they had, and vanished again. Dr. Chen looked up. Did they cause much damage? Vextal turned around. They crippled our main reactor. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the message they left behind. Jake waited for him to continue. They had somehow managed to hack our internal communications, Vextal said. Turner's voice came over every speaker on every ship in my fleet. He said, "This is Commander Turner of the USS Defiance. We are already dead, but we are taking you with us." The alien commander sat back down. Do you understand what that meant? His crew was dying from radiation. Their ship was falling apart. But they considered themselves already dead and were fighting like it. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What happened next? The attacks continued for 2 more weeks, Vextal said. Every day, sometimes twice a day. Different ships, different tactics. Always from directions we did not expect. He folded all 4 arms across his chest. My crews started to break down. Warriors who had fought in dozens of battles began jumping at shadows. Some refused to leave their quarters. Others saw enemies that were not there. Dr. Chen stopped taking notes. Your soldiers developed what we would call battle fatigue. Worse than that, Vextal replied. They developed something I had never seen before. Terror of an enemy that could not be fought in normal ways. They started calling the humans death spirits. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he continued. On the 18th day, we detected a large human ship drifting near the edge of the nebula. It was not moving. No power signature. We thought it might be damaged. Jake had a feeling he knew what was coming next. 5 of my ships moved in to investigate, Vextal said. As they got closer, the human ship suddenly came to life. All weapons, firing. It rammed directly into our lead destroyer. He closed his 4 eyes. Both ships exploded. The human captain had used his own vessel as a weapon, sacrificed his entire crew to destroy one of ours. The room was completely silent now. That was when I realized something terrible, Vextal continued. The humans were not just fighting us. They were hunting us, like predators hunt prey. He opened his eyes and looked directly at Jake. Admiral Sullivan had turned my own fleet against me. Every ship that disappeared made the others more afraid. Every attack made them more desperate. She was not trying to win a battle. She was trying to drive us insane. Dr. Chen leaned forward. How did it end? Vextal stood up one more time. On the 20th day, I gave the order to withdraw. We had lost 16 ships and over 4,000 warriors. The humans had maybe 5 ships left. He walked back to the window. As we prepared to leave the nebula, Admiral Sullivan contacted me directly. She said, Commander Vextal, you fought bravely, but this is our space now. Do not come back. The alien commander turned to face them both. I asked her how many ships she had left, how many crew members were still alive. Do you know what she said? Jake shook his head. She said, Enough, Vextal replied. Just that one word, enough. Then she cut the transmission. He sat back, down at the table. We left the nebula that day. My superiors called it a tactical withdrawal. But I knew the truth. We had been defeated by an enemy that refused to die when they were supposed to. The alien commander looked at his hands. Later, we learned that Commander Turner's ship had actually been destroyed on the 7th day. But his crew had kept fighting for 11 more days while slowly dying from radiation poisoning. Dr. Chen put down her pen. That must have been difficult for your people to understand. Vextal nodded. My warriors fight for honor and glory. Your people fight for each other. That makes you unpredictable, dangerous in ways we never expected. He looked directly at Jake. After the Ghost Fleet incident, something changed in how my people saw this war. We realized we were not fighting just another species. We were fighting something that did not follow the rules of civilized warfare. Jake felt like he was beginning to understand. What rules? The rule that says when you are beaten, you surrender, Vextal replied. The rule that says when you are outnumbered, you retreat. The rule that says when you are dying, you stop fighting. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Humans do not follow those rules, and that terrifies us more than any weapon you could build. Vextal walked away from the table and stood with his back to Jake and Dr. Lisa Chen. His forearms hung loosely at his sides. For a long time, he said nothing. The only sound was the quiet hum of the space station systems. What I am about to tell you, he finally said, is the reason why we surrendered. Not because we lost too many battles. Not because we ran out of ships or soldiers. We surrendered because of what 12 humans did to our homeworld. Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had heard rumors about a deep strike mission, but the details were classified above his level. Operation Broken Arrow, Vextal said without turning around. Your military probably has a different name for it, but that is what we called it after we learned what happened. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. We don't have any records of operations on Zephyrian worlds. Vextal turned around slowly. That is because it was not an attack, not in the way you would think. Colonel Steve Parker and 11 other humans came to our homeworld. They walked into our most secure military facility, and then they left. The alien commander sat back down. It sounds simple when I say it like that, but what they did changed everything. Jake leaned forward. How did 12 people penetrate your homeworld's defenses? Very carefully, Vextal replied, and very quietly. We did not even know they were there until after they were gone. He rubbed one of his scars with a clawed finger. The Fortress of Eternal Victory is our most important military base. It houses our central command, our strategic planning centers, and our most classified information. 10,000 guards, energy shields, automated defense systems. Vextal paused for a moment. Lieutenant Nina Rodriguez and her team spent 3 months studying our security patterns. They learned our guard rotations, our communication protocols, our weaknesses. Dr. Chen made notes on her pad. How did they get inside? They did not break in, Vextal said. They were invited in. Jake frowned. What do you mean? Vextal's mandibles clicked together slowly. Major Alex Thompson was a specialist in what you call psychological warfare. He created false identities for his team, made them appear to be Zephyrian military inspectors from a distant sector. The alien commander stood up and began pacing again. Our own security protocols worked against us. The guards were so used to following orders that they did not question the inspection team's credentials. He stopped pacing and looked directly at Jake. For 6 days, Colonel Parker and his people walked through our most secure facility. They examined our defenses, studied our command structure, and copied our most important files. The room was completely silent now. On the 7th day, they revealed themselves, Vextal continued. Not by attacking or destroying anything. They simply left a message in the central command room. Dr. Chen looked up. What kind of message? Vextal sat back down at the table. A recording. Colonel Parker sitting in the chair of our supreme military commander, in our most secure room, behind all our defenses and guards. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What did he say? He said, Greetings from the human military. We have been guests in your facility for 6 days. We could have killed your entire command staff. We could have destroyed your computers and stolen your weapons. But we chose not to. This is not because we are weak. This is because we are giving you a chance to end this war with honor. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then he continued. The recording was 17 minutes long. Parker showed us exactly how they had infiltrated our security. He explained every weakness they had found, every guard they had fooled, every system they had bypassed. Dr. Chen stopped taking notes. He was showing you that your defenses were useless. Worse than that, Vextal replied. He was showing us that if 12 humans could walk into our most secure facility, what could your entire military do if they really wanted to hurt us? Jake was beginning to understand. It was psychological warfare. Vextal nodded. The most effective kind. Parker did not need to fire a single shot. He just needed to prove that he could have fired every shot if he had wanted to. The alien commander folded all 4 arms across his chest. But the worst part came at the end of the recording. Parker looked directly into the camera and said something I will never forget. He paused for a long moment. He said, "We know where you live. We know how you think. We know your weaknesses. But we also know that you are not evil. Just misguided. So we are giving you this choice. End this war now and we will be friends. Continue this war, and we will be your worst nightmare." The room felt colder somehow. Then Lieutenant Rodriguez appeared on the screen. Vextal continued. She was holding a small device. She said, "We planted recording equipment throughout your facility. We know your battle plans for the next 6 months. We know which worlds you plan to attack next. We know everything." Jake realized what this meant. They had turned your own security against you. Completely, Vextal replied. Every plan we made they would know about. Every attack we launched they would be ready for. Our entire military strategy was compromised. Dr. Chen leaned forward. What was your high command's response? Vextal's 4 eyes focused on something far away. Panic. Real panic. Some wanted to change all our codes and plans immediately. Others wanted to launch a massive attack on Earth, while we still could. A few suggested we should surrender right away. The alien commander stood up and walked back to the window. But Major Thompson had planned for that too. The recording included one final message. If we tried to retaliate against human worlds, they would release all our military secrets to every other species in the galaxy. He turned around to face them. Do you understand what that meant? Every enemy we had ever made would know exactly how to hurt us. Every species we had conquered would know our weaknesses. Jake nodded slowly. They had made it impossible for you to continue the war. Not impossible, Vextal corrected. Just pointless. We could still fight, but we could never. When Parker had made sure of that, the alien commander sat back down. 3 days later, Fleet Admiral Mordak called for a meeting of the High Command. I was there when they played the recording for all the senior officers. He was quiet for a moment. I watched the faces of warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, generals who had never known defeat, and I saw something I had never seen before in Zephyrian eyes. Dr. Chen waited for him to continue. Fear, Vextal said. Not fear of death or pain. Fear of an enemy that could think 3 steps ahead of us. Fear of a species that could turn our own strengths into weaknesses. Jake leaned back in his chair. Is that when you decided to end the war? Vextal shook his head. Not yet. Fleet Admiral Mordak was stubborn. He said we would not be intimidated by human tricks. He ordered new security measures and new battle plans. The alien commander looked directly at Jake. But it was too late. The damage was already done. Every officer who saw that recording knew the truth. If 12 humans could do this to our homeworld, what could 12,000 do? What could 12 million do? He stood up one more time. Colonel Parker had done something worse than destroying our fleet. He had destroyed our confidence, our belief that we were superior to other species, our certainty that we would win this war. Dr. Chen put down her pen. How did the other officers react? Vextal walked back to the table. Some tried to pretend nothing had changed. Others started making excuses for why their attacks were failing. But I could see it in their eyes. The doubt, the fear. The alien commander sat down and folded his arms. 2 weeks later, we received another message from Colonel Parker. Just 4 words. The offer stands. No threats, no demands. Just a reminder that humans were willing to end the war peacefully. Jake felt like he was beginning to understand the full scope of what had happened. Your people realized they were fighting an enemy they could not predict or control. Exactly, Vextal replied. We are warriors. We understand battles and tactics and strategy, but Parker and his team had turned war into something else, something we did not recognize. The alien commander looked out the window at the stars. They had made us afraid of our own shadows. Every message we sent, every plan we made, every move we considered, we wondered if the humans already knew about it. He turned back to face them. That is when I realized something terrible and wonderful at the same time. Humans do not just fight wars. You think about wars. You plan not just for the battle you are fighting, but for the war that comes after the war. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. What do you mean? Vextal smiled, which was a disturbing sight, on his scarred face. Colonel Parker could have killed our leaders, could have destroyed our command center, could have crippled our military completely. But he chose not to. The alien commander leaned forward. He was thinking about what would happen after the war ended. He wanted us to surrender with our honor intact. He wanted us to become allies instead of bitter enemies. Jake realized this was the key to understanding everything. He was fighting for the peace, not just for the victory. Yes, Vextal said, and that is when I knew we had no choice but to surrender. Not because we were beaten, but because we were beaten by an enemy who was already planning to help us rebuild. Vextal walked to the window one last time. The stars outside seemed brighter now, or maybe it was just the reflection of the station's lights. Jake and Dr. Lisa Chen waited quietly. They could sense that the alien commander was preparing to share something important. The surrender ceremony took place on this very station, Vextal said without turning around. 6 months ago, Fleet Admiral Mordak signed the treaty in the same room where we are sitting now. He placed one hand against the cool metal of the window. I was there when he met General Paul Martinez for the first time, our supreme military leader facing the human negotiator. Do you know what the first thing Martinez said was? Jake shook his head even though Vextal could not see him. He said, "Thank you for coming. I know this must be difficult for you." Vextal turned around slowly. Not surrender your weapons or accept our terms. Just a simple acknowledgement that ending a war is hard for everyone. Dr. Chen looked up from her notes. That must have been unexpected. Vextal sat back down at the table. Everything about your people is unexpected. That is why we lost this war. Not because you had better ships or stronger soldiers. We lost because we never understood what we were really fighting. The alien commander folded all 4 arms across his chest. For 3 years we thought we were fighting for territory and resources. Standard conquest. Take what we needed and move on to the next target. He looked directly at Jake. But you were not fighting for territory. You were fighting for something much more dangerous. Jake leaned forward. What do you mean? You were fighting for each other, Vextal replied. Every human we killed made the others fight harder. Every colony we destroyed made your people more determined. We thought we were weakening you, but we were actually making you stronger. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. Then he continued. After the surrender, I asked General Martinez why humans fight so differently from other species. He told me something I will never forget. Dr. Chen waited for him to continue. He said, "We fight like this because we have to. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the smartest or the most advanced, but we refuse to give up. That is all we have, so we make it enough." Vextal stood up and began pacing again. Do you understand what that means? Your greatest strength is not accepting that you have limitations. When faced with impossible odds, you simply ignore the odds. Jake was beginning to see the full picture. You found that terrifying. Terrifying and fascinating, Vextal replied. My people are logical. We calculate risks and plan accordingly. When we face superior forces, we retreat. When we face certain death, we surrender. It is the rational thing to do. He stopped pacing and looked out the window again. But humans are not rational. You are emotional. You make decisions based on feelings and principles instead of logic and mathematics. The alien commander turned back to face them. That makes you unpredictable, dangerous. But it also makes you something else. Dr. Chen looked up. What? Inspiring, Vextal said. When Fleet Admiral Mordak returned from the surrender ceremony, he called a meeting of all senior officers. He told us that the war was over and that we would begin working with humans as allies. Jake frowned. How did your people react to that? Vextal's mandibles clicked together slowly. Some were angry. They felt we had been defeated by an inferior species. Others were relieved that the fighting was over, but a few like me were curious. The alien commander sat back down. I asked Mordak what he had learned from General Martinez. He said Martinez had offered to help us rebuild our damaged worlds. Not just the ones humans had attacked, but all of them. He paused for a moment. I asked why humans would help their former enemies. Mordak said Martinez told him, because that is what you do after a war ends. You help each other heal. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the life support systems. That is when I realized something important, Vextal continued. Humans do not fight wars to destroy their enemies. You fight wars to turn your enemies into friends. Dr. Chen stopped taking notes. Is that why you agreed to this interview? Vextal nodded. Partly. But there is another reason. Something more important. Jake waited for him to explain. Other species are watching what happened between humans and Zephyrians, Vextal said. The Altarian Empire, the Rigel Confederacy, the Centauri Alliance. They are all wondering if they should fear humans or try to conquer them. The alien commander leaned forward. I want them to hear this story. I want them to understand what they would be facing if they choose war instead of peace. He looked directly at Jake. Your species terrifies us, not because you are strong, but because you are insane. By our standards, you fight wars you cannot win. You defend positions you cannot hold. You sacrifice everything for principles you cannot quantify. Dr. Chen put down her pen. You think other species need to know this? I think other species need to choose very carefully, Vextal replied. Because humans have something that no other species I know possesses. Jake leaned forward. What is that? Hope, Vextal said. Stubborn, irrational, impossible hope. When everything goes wrong, when defeat seems certain, when logic says to give up, humans somehow find a reason to keep fighting. The alien commander stood up one last time. That is what defeated us. Not your weapons or your tactics or your technology. We were defeated by an enemy that refused to believe defeat was possible. He walked back to the window and looked out, at the stars. 3 months ago, I received a message from Captain Billy Roberts, the Marine commander from New Detroit. He invited me to visit the rebuilt colony. Vextal turned around. I accepted. I wanted to see what humans do after they win a war. Dr. Chen looked up. What did you find? A city more beautiful than the one we destroyed, Vextal replied. New schools, better hospitals, parks where children play, and in the center of the city, a memorial. The alien commander's voice grew quieter. Not a memorial to human heroes, though there were many. A memorial to all the soldiers who died in the war. Zephyrian and human names carved together in the same stone. Jake felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. Captain Roberts showed me. Around personally, Vextal continued. He introduced me to families who had lost relatives in the fighting, people who had every reason to hate me. Do you know what they did? The room was completely silent now. They invited me to dinner, Vextal said. They asked about my family, my homeworld, my plans for the future. They treated me not as a former enemy, but as a guest. The alien commander sat back down at the table. That is when I finally understood what General Martinez meant about helping each other heal. Humans do not just win wars. You win the peace that follows. He looked at both, Jake and Dr. Chen. I came here today not just to share these stories, but to deliver a message to any species that might be listening. Jake waited for him to continue. Fighting humans is not like fighting other species, Vextal said. You cannot defeat them by destroying their ships or conquering their worlds. You can only defeat them by becoming something they cannot hope to save. The alien commander was quiet for a moment. And most species like mine are not willing to become monsters just to win a war. Dr. Chen leaned forward. What would you tell other alien leaders who might be considering conflict with humanity? Vextal thought for a long moment. I would tell them that humans make better allies than enemies, that a species capable of such determination in war is also capable of such generosity in peace. He stood up and walked toward the door. But mostly I would tell them to remember New Detroit, to remember the Ghost Fleet, to remember Operation Broken Arrow. The alien commander stopped at the door and turned back one last time. I would tell them that, if they choose war with humanity, they should be prepared to fight an enemy that considers impossible odds to be merely an interesting challenge. Jake stood up as well. Commander Vextal, thank you for sharing these stories with us. Vextal's mandibles clicked together in what Jake had learned was a sign of respect. Thank you for listening, and thank you for showing mercy to a defeated enemy. The alien commander opened the door and stepped into the corridor. I hope we never have to face human courage in battle again, but I am grateful to call it our ally in peace. As the door closed behind him, Jake and Dr. Chen sat in silence for a long time. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance, but somehow the galaxy felt like a safer place. The recording device clicked off. The interview was over. But the legend of human determination would continue to spread across the stars, carried by the words of a former enemy who had learned to respect the species he could never defeat. The alarm blared across Earth Command Station. Lieutenant Peters stared at his screen, his coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips. Sir, he called to the duty officer, we have an unidentified contact coming in from deep space. Pirates? Commander, Williams asked, not looking up from his reports. No, sir. The energy signature, it's human. But it can't be. It's got alien tech grafted all over it. Williams looked up sharply. Put it on screen. The main display filled with the image of a ship. It was clearly human in design, but wrong. Sleek alien metal wrapped around its hull like organic armor. Strange energy fields pulsed along its sides. Most unsettling were the weapons. They looked like they had grown from the ship rather than being built into it. USS Redwood, Peters read from his console. But, sir, the Redwood disappeared 10 years ago during a deep space mission. They were declared lost with all hands. The comm system crackled to life. Earth Command, this is Captain Ryan Hayes of the USS Redwood requesting docking permission. Williams grabbed the microphone. Captain Hayes, this is Commander Williams. You've been missing for 10 years. Your entire crew was declared dead. A pause. Then Hayes replied, Commander, it's good to hear a human voice again. We've been busy. Permission to dock? We have urgent information about a threat to Earth and the entire galaxy. Williams looked at Peters, who shrugged. Permission granted, Redwood. Bay 12. But you'll have a security detail waiting for you. Understood, Hayes said. And Commander, you're going to want the Joint Chiefs for this meeting. What we have to say can't wait. Hours later, Williams watched through the observation window as the Redwood docked. The ship looked even more alien up close. The hull seemed to breathe. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface. The airlock opened, and 5 people stepped out. They wore uniforms that looked like they'd been designed by aliens but tailored for humans. Each moved with an unsettling grace, as if gravity affected them differently. Captain Hayes looked exactly as Williams remembered from his file photo, but there was something changed about his eyes. They seemed to see too much, to know too much. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Sanchez, Dr. Aaron Cole, Lieutenant Kate Bradley, and Chief Mike Torres. Captain Hayes, Williams said, extending his hand. Welcome home. Hayes shook it, his grip unnaturally strong. It doesn't feel much like home anymore, Commander. We've been gone too long. 10 years, Williams said. You must have quite a story. 3 years, Hayes corrected. Time moves differently where we've been. In the briefing room, Admiral Jackson waited with the Joint Chiefs. Hayes and his crew sat at the long table, their alien-influenced uniforms stark against the sterile Earth military decor. Captain, Admiral Jackson began, reports are that your ship has been modified with alien technology. Where have you been for the past decade? Hayes leaned forward. Admiral, 10 years ago we encountered something out there, not friendly contact, something that was hunting, something that killed entire solar systems. What kind of something? General Brooks asked skeptically. Dr. Cole pulled out a device that looked like it was made of living metal. The room dimmed as a hologram filled the space above the table. The image showed a massive ship, black as space itself, with tentacle-like appendages that seemed to devour light. "The Devastators," Cole said. "They're not from our universe. They're from somewhere else, somewhere dead. And they're coming here." "Why should we believe this?" General Brooks asked. Kate Bradley stood and waved her hand. The air shimmered, and suddenly everyone could see space around them, stars burning, bright. "Because we've spent 10 years learning to fight them, because we watched them destroy 3 inhabited solar systems, because we barely survived our first encounter." The illusion faded. Admiral Jackson stared at Bradley. "What did you just do?" "The aliens who helped us survive, they taught us things," she said. "Enhanced our bodies. Gave us new abilities. It was necessary to stay alive." Mike Torres stood and demonstrated. He moved across the room faster than human eyes could follow, then stopped, as if he'd simply walked. "The Devastators aren't like anything you fought. They adapt to your weapons instantly. Regular bullets, missiles, energy beams. Nothing works for long." Lisa Sanchez said, "That's why we had to modify everything. Our weapons, our ship, ourselves. The aliens who survived Devastator attacks, they shared their technology with us. We've spent 3 years for us, 10 for you, learning how to fight them." "And where are these helpful aliens now?" Admiral Jackson asked. "Coming here," Hayes said. "They call themselves the Remembrance. They're the last survivors of dozens of worlds. They'll arrive in 2 months. The Devastators will arrive in 18 months. We need to be ready." General Brooks slammed his fist on the table. "This is ridiculous. You disappear for 10 years, come back with a Frankenstein ship and some story about monsters from another dimension?" Hayes looked at him calmly. Then he pressed a button on the alien device. The room filled with the sound of screaming. Images flashed across the walls. Worlds burning. Civilizations ending. Entire species being consumed by darkness. "General," Hayes said quietly, "I've watched 3 billion sentient beings die. I've seen planets cracked open like eggs. I've fought things that shouldn't exist. So when I tell you the Devastators are coming, you have a choice. Prepare with us or die unprepared." The room fell silent. Admiral Jackson finally spoke. "What do you need?" "Everything," Sanchez said. "We need to upgrade every ship in the fleet. We need to train every soldier in new combat techniques. We need to integrate alien technology with human engineering. And we need to do it all in 18 months. Hayes stood. "Admiral, in 3 years, we've gone from a simple exploration crew to something else. Something designed to fight an impossible enemy. But we can't do this alone. Earth needs to evolve too." As they left the briefing room, Lieutenant Peters heard Hayes say to his crew, "They'll resist the changes at first. They always do. Until they see what's coming," Torres replied grimly. Williams watched them walk away, their enhanced movements graceful and alien. He wondered if saving humanity meant becoming something inhuman. Outside, the Redwood waited, its hybrid design a promise of the changes coming to all of them. 3 weeks after the Redwood's return, Earth Command was split down the middle. Half believed Captain Hayes and his crew. The other half thought they were either lying or had been compromised by alien influence. Admiral Jackson called another meeting. This time, every major world leader attended via secure video conference. Hayes and his crew stood before them, the weight of the world on their shoulders. "Captain Hayes," President Martinez said, "we've had our best scientists examine the footage. You provided. They say it could be faked." Hayes nodded calmly. "I expected skepticism. Dr. Cole, show them the biological evidence." Cole pressed his device and microscopic images filled the screens. "These are DNA samples from Devastator scout units. Notice the cellular structure. It's silicon-based, but organic, impossible by our current understanding of biology." "Could be engineered," suggested General Chen from Beijing. "Could be," Cole agreed. "But look at this." The image changed. "These are samples from my own blood. The nanites you see were introduced by the Remembrance to help us survive. They're still active." General Brooks scowled. So you've been infected? By alien technology? Modified, Lisa Sanchez corrected. Not infected. The modifications allow us to interface with hybrid equipment, survive in hostile environments, and react faster than normal humans. Show us, demanded President Okafor from Nigeria. Kate Bradley stepped forward. She closed her eyes for a moment, then her hands began to glow with a soft blue light. The air around her shimmered, and suddenly everyone could see the room from multiple angles simultaneously, as if they were looking through dozens of security cameras at once. This is what we see when we focus, she said. Multiple perspective analysis. It helped us anticipate devastator attack patterns. The demonstration ended. Several world leaders looked shaken. Russian Premier Volkov spoke first. How do we know you haven't been turned against humanity? Mike Torres stepped forward. Because we've bled for humanity, sir. Because we've watched our friends die. Because everything we've done has been to give Earth a fighting chance. He pressed his device, and the room darkened. A video began playing from the Redwoods cameras. The footage showed a beautiful planet, blue oceans and green continents visible from orbit. Then the darkness came. Massive devastator ships emerged from what looked like tears in space itself. They moved like living things flowing across the planet's surface. This was Keth Prime, Torres said. Population 6 billion. We watched from the edge of their system. The devastators consumed everything in 12 hours. The video showed cities crumbling, oceans boiling, and the very ground being pulled into the devastator ships like water down a drain. They don't kill, Aaron Cole explained. They consume. They break down matter and energy and absorb it into their mass. Every planet they consume makes them stronger. The room was silent as the video showed the planet's core being extracted, leaving nothing but scattered debris. Hayes spoke next. This is what's coming. In 18 months, they'll reach in our solar system. The Remembrance calculated their route using quantum tracking methods. Earth is their target. Why Earth? Asked President Martinez. Because we're alone, Sanchez said. No allies, no advanced defenses. To them, we're easy prey. General Brooks stood up. Even if this is all true, how can we trust alien technology? How do we know it won't turn us into something non-human? Hayes looked him in the eye. Because, General, being human won't be enough to survive what's coming. We need to evolve or die. Are you saying we should all become like you? Asked Prime Minister Chen. No, Hayes said. We're saying you need to choose. Stay purely human and face extinction, or adapt and survive. Dr. Cole activated another program. DNA helixes appeared on the screens, human and alien sequences merging and separating. The modifications are reversible. They're not permanent genetic changes, but temporary enhancements. Nanite-based, they can be removed after the threat is dealt with. And if some of us don't want these modifications, asked President Okafor. Then help us in other ways, Torres said. Not everyone needs to be enhanced, but our fleet needs to be modified. Our weapons need to be upgraded. Our defensive systems need alien sensors to even detect devastator ships before they attack. Lisa Sanchez stood. Sirs, madams, we've seen what works and what doesn't. Conventional weapons are useless. After the first few minutes, the devastators adapt too quickly. But hybrid weapons combining human and alien technology can stay effective longer. How much time do we have? Asked Admiral Jackson. Hayes consulted his device. 18 months until they reach our system, but they'll send scouts first, small ships to test our defenses. Those will arrive in about 6 months. Can we detect them? Asked General Chen. Kate Bradley smiled grimly. Yes, with the right modifications to our sensor arrays. We can also help train your pilots to recognize their attack patterns. The meeting continued for hours. Questions about the modifications, the alien allies, the weapons technology, and the timeline were asked and answered repeatedly. Finally, President Martinez spoke for the assembled leaders. We need proof. Real, tangible proof that this threat exists. Hayes nodded. He'd been expecting this. The first remembrance ships will arrive in 2 weeks. They carry survivors from destroyed worlds. People who've lost everything to the devastators. Will you at least listen to them? And if they're hostile, General Brooks asked. Then we'll deal with them, Hayes said simply. But they're not. They're refugees just like we were before we learned to fight back. Admiral Jackson stood. Very well. We'll prepare for these remembrance ships. But understand, Captain, any sign of deception or threat, and we'll treat your alien friends as enemies. Understood, Admiral, Hayes replied. As the meeting ended, Lieutenant Peters approached Commander Williams. Sir, do you believe them? Williams watched the Redwood crew leave. Their movements were too fluid, too perfect. They moved like a team that had shared death and survival. I believe they believe it, he said, and that's enough to make me nervous. Outside, the night sky looked peaceful, but somewhere out there darkness was moving toward Earth and time was running out. 2 weeks passed, and the first remembrance ships arrived. 3 vessels, unlike anything humans had built, hung in orbit near the moon. They didn't look like ships at all, more like living creatures made of metal and light. Colonel Steve Johnson stood in the Situation Room, studying every detail of the alien ships. I don't trust them, he said to Admiral Jackson. The Hayes crew comes back changed, tells us scary stories, and now alien ships show up right on schedule. It's too convenient. The scans show no weapons, Admiral Jackson replied. But his voice held doubt too. Maybe they don't need weapons, Johnson suggested. Maybe the weapons are the people they've already changed. Meanwhile, Ambassador Helen Parker prepared for first contact. She'd spent 2 weeks learning what the Hayes crew knew about remembrance language and customs. Now she would be the first human to meet them without the Redwood crew present. In Bay 7, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Walsh worked with Lisa Sanchez to understand alien technology. Walsh was Earth's best engineer, but the hybrid systems baffled him. How does this work? He asked, pointing at a device that seemed to bend light around itself. Think of it like quantum manipulation, Sanchez explained. It doesn't just deflect energy. It redirects the quantum probability of being hit. That's impossible, Walsh said. So were flying machines once, she replied. The devastators forced us to expand what's possible. Near Earth, pilot Alex Chen flew training exercises. With Kate Bradley, Chen was the best pilot in the human fleet, but Bradley made him feel like a beginner. You're thinking too much, Bradley said through the comm. Feel the ship. Let the neural interfaces guide you. I can't interface like you can, Chen protested. I'm not modified. Watch, Bradley said. She shut off her engines and let her ship drift. Then, impossibly, it began moving again, not with thrusters, but as if the ship itself was alive. The modifications help, she admitted. But the real secret is understanding that technology and biology aren't separate anymore. Everything we use is partially alive. That night, alarms blared through Earth Command. 3 human ships had disappeared. From the patrol grid near Jupiter. Pirates? Commander Williams asked, arriving in the command center. No, sir, Lieutenant Peters replied. The ships went dark simultaneously. Perfect coordination. Someone knew their schedules. Admiral Jackson arrived moments later, followed by Captain Hayes and Mike Torres. Sabotage, Torres said immediately. Someone inside Earth Command is working with the devastators. That's impossible, Colonel Johnson snapped. How would humans even contact them? The devastators don't just consume, Dr. Cole explained, appearing on the comm screen. They recruit. They find beings who will trade information for power. Admiral Jackson's face darkened. Start internal security protocols. Everyone gets screened. Hayes, Torres, I need your team to help identify the saboteur. There's something else, Hayes said. The remembrance ships detected scout probes in the asteroid belt. The devastators are mapping our system earlier than we expected. Johnson stepped forward. This is exactly what I warned about. Aliens arrive and suddenly we have saboteurs and enemy scouts. You're leading us into a trap. Or, we're finding out how deep the trap already is, Torres replied coldly. The tension in the room exploded into shouting. Half the officers sided with Johnson, believing the Redwood crew was compromised. The other half supported Hayes, seeing sabotage as proof of the threat. Admiral Jackson slammed his hands on the table. Enough. He turned to his senior staff. As of now, we run parallel operations. Johnson, you'll investigate the Redwood crew and the Remembrance. Hayes, you'll hunt for saboteurs and prepare defenses. Both teams report directly to me. Later that evening, Helen Parker made contact with the Remembrance. The alien ambassador was a being of shifting colors and gentle sounds. Through translation, devices it spoke. We are the last of the coalition of stars. 37 worlds fell before we learned to run. You call them devastators. We call them the endless hunger. Can you help us fight them? Parker asked. We can share knowledge, technology, warning, but fighting, that you must learn for yourself. Each species must find its own way to resist. The Hayes crew says you modified them, made them stronger. We offered. They chose. Modification is not without cost. You become more, but different. Some species choose extinction over change, Parker thought carefully. And the saboteur in our ranks? The alien's colors shifted to deep purple. The hunger scouts more than space. It scouts minds, finds those who fear change more than death, offers them false safety in exchange for betrayal. Across Earth, underground groups formed. Some supported full integration with alien technology. Others demanded isolation and traditional defense. The split grew deeper each day. In a secret facility in Colorado, Lisa Sanchez and Ben Walsh successfully merged human and alien tech into a prototype fighter. It works, Walsh said with amazement. The quantum shields respond to pilot thought. Patterns? Good, Sanchez replied. Because we'll need 100 of these in 3 months. At the same time, Colonel Johnson's investigation uncovered something troubling. The saboteur had accessed not just military systems, but civilian infrastructure, water treatment, power grids, communication networks. All had been mapped and copied. They're not just planning a military strike, Johnson reported to Admiral Jackson. They're planning to destroy our society from within. Admiral Jackson made a decision. Issue the alert. Full spectrum preparation. Military and civilian sectors. We're upgrading everything. The people won't accept forced modifications, General Brooks warned. We're not forcing anything, Jackson replied. But we are making the choice available to everyone. And we're hardening all systems against sabotage, with or without alien tech. In orbit, the Remembrance ships began broadcasting something to Earth, a message that repeated in all human languages. The hunger comes. Choose your form of survival, but choose quickly. Time flows differently for predators. Captain Hayes stood on the observation deck of Earth Command, looking at the Remembrance ships in the modified Redwood. Below, cities lit up as people debated their future. Sir? Kate Bradley asked, joining him. Do you think they'll choose change? Hayes was quiet for a moment. Humans are stubborn. We resist until the last possible moment. But when we finally move, we move fast and hard. I hope that's enough time, she said. It has to be, Hayes replied, watching as modified fighters launched from Earth for their first test flights. Because ready or not, the scouts are already here. The first Devastator scout ships appeared 3 months early. Not 1 or 2, but a dozen emerging from what sensors called probability fractures near Neptune. They were smaller than expected, each about the size of a battleship, but they moved wrong, like liquid metal poured through space. Contact in 12 hours, Lieutenant Peters announced, his voice tight with fear. General Tom Barnes had been skeptical of the alien threat until this moment. Seeing the scout formations, execute maneuvers that defied physics changed his mind instantly. Admiral, he said to Jackson, I owe Captain Hayes an apology. Cancel my objections and put me to work. Admiral Jackson nodded grimly. Better late than never, General. Take command of the hybrid fighter squadrons. We need your tactical experience. In the shipyard hidden behind the moon, Chief Engineer Mary Wright directed the largest construction project in human history. 3 months of around-the-clock work had produced 50 hybrid fighters and modified 12 heavy cruisers. How many ships do we actually need? Wright asked Lisa Sanchez as they reviewed production schedules. According to the Remembrance data, each Devastator mothership controls about 1,000 scouts, Sanchez replied. And the main force brings 5 motherships minimum. Wright stared at the numbers. We'll have maybe 200 ships ready when they arrive. That's not nearly enough. It doesn't have to be enough, Captain Hayes said, walking up behind them. It just has to buy us time to find their weakness. Hayes had been working with Colonel Jack Miller to develop new combat tactics. Miller, a Marine with 30 years experience, had adapted quickly to the idea of fighting alien monsters. We can't fight them head-on, Miller explained to his combined forces, human Marines trained alongside Remembrance warriors, their different anatomies creating unique challenges and solutions. The Devastators adapt to direct assault within minutes. We hit fast, pull back, hit from different angles. Like guerrilla warfare in space, suggested Captain Susan Blake, a former Special Forces commander. Exactly, Miller confirmed. And thanks to the modifications, our enhanced soldiers can coordinate attacks across multiple dimensions. Dr. Emma Roberts, Earth's leading physicist, worked closely with Dr. Aaron Cole to understand Devastator biology. What they discovered changed everything. They're not really alive, Roberts explained to the Joint Chiefs. They're more like quantum programs, self-replicating patterns that exist between dimensions. Can we shut them down? Asked General. Barnes. Cole activated a holographic model. Theoretically, yes. They operate on quantum frequencies. If we can generate the inverse frequency, we might be able to disrupt their cohesion. How do we do that? Admiral Jackson asked. The Remembrance has been working on it for centuries, Roberts said. They've built a device that can generate the inverse frequency, but it requires massive power and perfect timing. Where is this device? Demanded Colonel Johnson, still suspicious of alien gifts. That's the problem, Cole admitted. It's on their homeworld, which is on the opposite side of the galaxy. They're trying to bring it here, but 3 Devastator scout groups are hunting their transport. In training facilities across Earth, humans faced a choice. The modifications offered by the Remembrance weren't mandatory, but those who accepted them could interface directly with hybrid technology. By the 4th month, 40% of Earth's military personnel had undergone the process. Pilot Alex Chen stood in the medical bay, watching nanites enter his bloodstream through an IV. Kate Bradley held his hand. Does it hurt? He asked. No, she said. It feels like waking up, like you were asleep your whole life and didn't know it. Chen felt the change almost immediately. Colors became brighter. Sounds had more depth. His awareness expanded beyond normal human senses. I can feel the ships, he whispered in amazement. Not just mine. All of them. It's like they're extensions of my body. Bradley smiled. Now you understand why we had to change. Fighting Devastators with normal human limits is like trying to box a hurricane. Meanwhile, the saboteur struck again. Power grids across North America went dark for 17 minutes, long enough for updated defense protocols to be copied and transmitted into deep space. They're reporting our preparations to someone, Torres told Admiral Jackson, and we still don't know who the spy is. Then we use it against them, Jackson replied. Feed them false information. Make the Devastators think we're weaker than we are. Colonel Miller implemented the deception. False patrol routes, fake weakness in shields, fabricated disagreements about alien technology. Through carefully leaked reports, Earth appeared to be splitting apart from within. The real truth was different. Production had accelerated beyond projections. Modified humans and pure humans worked side by side, each using their strengths. The Remembrance shared more technology daily, sometimes things they'd kept secret even from the Hayes crew. Why now? Ambassador Parker asked the Remembrance leader. Why share everything when you held back before? The aliens' colors shifted through a complex pattern that translated as profound sadness. Because survival now requires trust, and because if we fail here, there's nowhere left to run. As the 6th month approached, Earth's defensive preparations neared completion. Modified fighters patrolled in pack formations. Planetary shields, powered by hybrid reactors, hummed to life. Communication arrays could now tap quantum frequencies to coordinate across vast distances. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Redwood, now designated flagship of the unified fleet. Around him, human and alien officers worked at stations that merged biology with technology. "First wave scouts will test our defenses tomorrow," reported Commander Williams, now modified and serving as his executive officer. "Let them come," Hayes replied, looking at the tactical display. "Every probe they send gives us data. Every scout that returns tells their masters we're dangerous." "Sir," Lieutenant Peters called from communications, his enhanced reflexes making his work incredibly precise. "The Remembrance transport is approaching the edge of our system. The quantum device is aboard." "And the Devastator group's hunting it?" Hayes asked. "Engaged with our outer defense perimeter. It's about to get very interesting." Hayes looked out at the space around Earth. Ships of 3 different species moved in coordinated patterns, weapons that shouldn't exist powered up, shields that bent, reality flickered to life. "All hands," he announced fleet-wide. "This is what we trained for. This is what we changed for. Hold the line." The fleet responded with 1,000 voices, human and alien mixed together. In maintenance bays, Marines checked their weapons. In sick bays, medical teams prepared for casualties that would challenge everything they'd learned about anatomy. In command centers, officers who had chosen different paths of evolution worked together toward the same goal. Earth's first battle for survival was about to begin, and humanity would never be the same again. The first Devastator scouts hit Earth's outer defenses like a black tide. Modified fighters met them near Jupiter, their hybrid weapons firing energy that twisted space itself. But the scouts adapted quickly, their dark hulls shifting to deflect the attacks. "They're learning our weapons faster than expected," General Barnes reported from the command center. "Losses at 30%. Captain Hayes watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. "Pull the fighters back. Begin Phase 2. Either retreat wasn't a defeat, it was planned. As human fighters withdrew, massive quantum mines activated along their path. The Devastator scouts following aggressively flew directly into the trap. Explosions bloomed in space like deadly flowers. The mines didn't just damage the scouts, they disrupted their quantum cohesion. Half the enemy vanguard shattered into their base particles. "Direct hit on their command scout," reported Lieutenant Peters, his enhanced senses tracking data streams. "Wait, something's happening." The remaining scouts began to merge. Instead of separate ships, they flowed together into one massive entity. Where there had been a dozen vessels, now there was one the size of a space station. "That's new," muttered Colonel Miller from the Marine Deployment Center. "They're adapting to group tactics by becoming a group," Dr. Cole observed. "We need different strategies for different configurations." The merged scout began its assault on Earth's inner defenses. Energy beams that could melt asteroids struck the planetary shields. For 3 hours, the quantum barriers held. Then the main Devastator fleet arrived. They didn't drop out of hyperspace or use any familiar means of faster-than-light travel. Reality simply tore open, and 5 massive motherships poured through. Each one dwarfed Earth's moon, their surfaces crawling with organic machinery. "All hands, this is Admiral Jackson," the fleet commander announced. "Execute Protocol Omega." Earth's entire defense grid activated simultaneously. Every weapon platform, every shield generator, every modified ship opened fire. The coordinated assault was like nothing the Devastators had faced before. The combined firepower of 3 species focused on a single point. One Devastator mothership staggered under the assault. Its hull cracked, bleeding dark energy into space. But the other 4 responded by releasing clouds of smaller fighters. Thousands of them, moving in perfect precision. "Captain, the Remembrance quantum device is ready," reported Commander Williams aboard the Redwood. "But we need to get it within 300,000 kilometers of a Devastator mothership core." Hayes turned to his crew. "Then that's what we do. Redwood Squadron with me. Everyone else keep them busy." The Redwood led 12 modified fighters toward the nearest Devastator mothership. Anti-fighter defenses opened up immediately. The space between became a storm of energy and debris. "Sir, we're losing ships," called Lieutenant Bradley, her enhanced reflexes pushing her fighter beyond human limits. "Keep going," Hayes ordered. "Dr. Cole, how's our saboteur friend?" "Tracking him now," Cole replied. "The spy is Admiral Jackson?" "Negative," Torres cut in from the bridge. "The signal's using Jackson's codes, but originating from below him, someone in the command center." On Earth, pandemonium erupted as the true saboteur revealed himself. Colonel Steve Johnson had been playing a deeper game, feeding information to the Devastators while publicly opposing them. "You fools," Johnson broadcast as security forces surrounded him. "The Devastators offered us survival. Join them willingly, and live as servants or die as food. I chose wisely." General Barnes personally arrested Johnson. "You chose poorly," he said coldly. In space, the battle intensified. The Redwood fought through wave after wave of Devastator fighters. Katie Bradley's modifications allowed her to pilot in ways that defied human reflexes, dodging quantum-locked missiles and energy beams. Device range in 60 seconds. Williams reported as the Redwood shuddered under enemy fire. "Sir, we're not going to make it," Torres said, watching hull integrity drop. Hayes made a decision. "All pilots eject. I'm taking her in alone." "Like hell you are," came multiple responses from his crew. "We've come too far together to split up now," added Mike. Torres, the Redwood surged forward, its hybrid engines screaming. The Devastator mothership grew massive in the view screen, its dark hull pulsing with alien energy patterns. Then something unexpected happened. The ship began to speak, not through communications, but directly into their modified minds. "You cannot win," it said. "We are entropy made manifest. We are the heat death of universes. Join us and know eternity." "Sorry," Hayes replied mentally, "but humans are stubborn that way." The quantum device activated. Reality seemed to pause. Then a wave of energy, unlike anything anyone had seen, rippled outward from the Redwood. The inverse quantum frequency crashed into the Devastator mothership like a tsunami. The effect was immediate. The ship's cohesion broke down. Its matter began separating into component molecules, then atoms, then subatomic particles. The process spread to the other motherships like a quantum infection. "It's working," shouted Williams. "All Devastator ships are losing cohesion," but the process was burning out the Redwood's modified systems. Sparks flew from control panels. The air began to taste of ozone and melting metal. "Sir, we need to evacuate," Torres urged. "Not yet," Hayes said, holding the ship steady. "Another 30 seconds and it will hit critical mass." Around them, Devastator ships were dissolving into cosmic dust. Their escort fighters, cut off from the mothership collective intelligence, began attacking each other in confusion. At exactly 30 seconds, Hayes gave the order. "All hands, abandon ship, now." The crew ejected in escape pods as the Redwood completed its final mission. The quantum device reached critical mass, sending one final pulse through the disintegrating Devastator fleet. 3 months later, Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the observation deck of New Earth Station. The combined human remembrance facility orbited between Earth and the Moon, a symbol of the alliance forged in fire. "Any regrets?" asked Ambassador Helen Parker, joining him at the railing. "A few," Hayes admitted. "We lost the Redwood, we lost good people. We had to become something different than what we started as. But we survived. More than that, we evolved." He gestured to the space around them. Modified and unmodified humans worked alongside remembrance citizens. Ships of hybrid design patrolled space that had once seemed impossibly empty. "The galaxy is bigger than we thought," Parker said. "The remembrance tells us there are other threats out there." Hayes smiled, that look in his eyes that had never left since his return. "Then we'll be ready. Humanity doesn't run from the dark anymore. We've learned to adapt to it." Below them, Earth turned slowly in space, changed but still home, different but still human. The universe was vast and full of dangers, But humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes surviving meant becoming something more than you started as. In deep space, old emergency beacons awakened. New explorers would venture, out soon, some modified, some not. All carrying the knowledge that darkness could be faced and overcome. The Redwood was gone, but its legacy lived on in every hybrid ship that left Earth's orbit. Humanity had returned from the edge of extinction, stronger than ever before.